good morning and welcome everybody to our first ever virtual PD. We definitely miss seeing you all in person, and as Matt was saying earlier, being able to feed you breakfast and lunch and connect and chit chat about everyone's summers, but we're just so happy that you could make this today. So before we get started, we just want to make sure everybody's familiar, with how we're going to operate with Zoom this morning. As Matt said, it's so great to see a lot of you. So video is encouraged, but certainly not required. And I think most of you have muted yourself during this portion of the PD, just because there are a good amount of everybody. So if you have any questions at any time, just use that chat function, and Liz will be monitoring that. So if there's questions throughout, we'll make sure we'll answer those in real time. And then, just to sort of gauge that everyone is picking up on what we're saying and understanding, if you could just give us a thumbs up, and then for those really riveting slides, maybe a clap if you're really digging it. So again, thank you for being here. And so without further ado, we're going to get started, and I'm going to kick it back to our fearless leader and director, Matt Mervis.
Okay, good morning. I'm just going to do a quick hello and introduction, and then I'll talk in a few minutes a little bit more about Skills21 and Ed Advance for those of you who are new to us. But I'm the director of the team. I've been there 5+ years, and I'm in my 30th-ish year in education. I've been a teacher and a tech director and worked for myself as an entrepreneur for quite a few years. And I'm just I'm a blessed guy in all manner of being, but certainly very fortunate to get to work with this remarkable team of everyone you see here. So thanks so much for carving a little bit of time out on what looks to be a sunny day, at least in Western Mass. And we'll look forward to spending the time with you this morning.
Yeah, and my name is Cameron Audia, and I have a background in film and education. And prior to COVID, I was our events producer, but now I believe I am the virtual events producer. So I wear a lot of different hats for Skills21, but what you'll be most familiar with communicating with me on are events such as today's PD. So nice to virtually meet some of you. And yeah, go ahead, Liz.
Hi everyone, I am Liz Rade. My title is Research Specialist at Skills21, but like everyone on our team, I wear a lot of different hats. So I play a big role in the background on our NSF grants, of which we have 2 right now, current, and you'll hear a little bit more about those at some point. I also do a lot of our curriculum writing, so I kind of led the curriculum writing on PIP. I've worked a lot on our program. That's become a really big passion of mine, both Capstone and PIP, kids doing their own passion projects. I was a classroom teacher for 16 years. I did math and special ed and a variety of things, some Spanish when they needed me to, whatever. And I've been at Skills21. I think this is my 3rd Learn 21 officially. So I've been at Skills21 for about 3 years.
Good. And my name is Gary Robinson. I'm also known as Coach Gary or Tall Gary, depending on how familiar you are with us. I am a Skills21 coach. My role throughout the year is I work hand in hand with the teachers and students as you take your project ideas and turn them into reality and get them prepped for Expo Fest. And I believe this is beginning my 3rd year here with the Skills21 team, and kind of ditto Matt, just super blessed and excited to be a part of this team and here today. And I'll kick it back to Liz, who I believe you're getting us started with an activity.
I am. And if it's Gary's 3rd year, it can't be my 3rd year. I must be 4 or 5. I don't know.
5, Liz.
Oh, time is flying. All right. Cam, do you want to go to the next screen? Great. So we are going to start with an activity called a Mentimeter. So if on a device, your own device, you can, I'm going to give you escape. We will not take over your whole screen. You're going to go to www.menti.com, and it's going to ask you for a code. And then you're going to answer the question. So that code, I will read it a few times so that you can put it in, is 34 33 82. Again, that code is 34 33 82. And this is a pretty cool tool I learned about doing one of the 8 million virtual PDs this summer on how to engage adults and teachers and students in online learning. So we're going to see if this works. So again, you should be at menti.com 343382. And I am going to try to steal the screen share from Cam. Let's see if it'll share my desktop. We're going to go over here. Oh, it's popping up. It's popping up. All right, we've got 8 people that have answered. Keep it going. Yeah, here it comes. Pop it up there. So as you can see, Mentimeter creates a word cloud if you choose that option. One of my hot tips that I learned this summer is that you should be, as you are all going into your virtual classrooms, that you want your students doing something active within the first 3 minutes. This is a pretty easy tool because they can do it from their phones. They can do it just in another window. They can do it on an iPad. It works in Google Classroom. And then you can share this. So as we see, it looks like a lot of people, and you know how a word cloud works, so different, nature, crazy, quiet are all words that more people have used. Margarita, love it. PDs, I feel that. Quarantine, hectic, cabin fever. So you can see we've got, you know, seems like there's been a mix of what people have found, both the summer fun nature adventure side and some got some relaxing in there, but we also are feeling the same things that you guys are feeling as far as worrisome, overwhelmed, new. You know, I think on our team, Matt and I are both managing our own children and their schooling, plus, you know, our own schools that we work with and our jobs. So certainly is giving us all of those different things. So 16 of you have participated in our poll, and so thank you for doing that. And Cam, you can take over the screen back for me, and I hope you enjoyed our little icebreaker activity.
And Liz, I'm just going to pop in with a quick chat. So Jolene asked just to can you rephrase that pro tip again and say a little bit more about online engagement in the first part of class?
Sure. So one of the tips that a lot of the experts have been saying is that you really want your kids to do something within the first 3 minutes, whether it's answer a poll on Zoom, enter a comment in a chat. If you are familiar with Pear Deck, having them do something in Pear Deck. And the purpose of that is we really want students to know that even though they are not in front of us, that learning is not passive. So if you start with 10 minutes of just talking at them, they'll start to feel like, oh, this is a passive thing. It's like I'm watching TV. Another reason for wanting to do that is we don't believe that it should be mandatory for students to share screens, just like you are not all sharing your screens. Who knows what's going on in their background, whether or not they have enough broadband to do that. And it's one way to make sure that your students are participating. So even if they only have their face in a picture there, they can still be very active participants. So the more you can get kids right from the beginning, you know, really that first 3 minutes has been kind of my marker that even if we, you know, we're going to talk at you a lot this morning, but we wanted you knowing that we want to hear from you right from the beginning.
Great. Are there any more questions on the chat?
Nope. Looks good.
One quick thing I'll say, just as questions come up, and I see a few new folks have come in, so just a refresher if you're just coming in the door, so to speak. If you can have your mics muted, that's great. We'll definitely have a time for kind of Q&A. The chat is there, and Liz and I and all of us are actively monitoring the chat, so please, as Jolene just did, drop a question in. We'll pause where we are and address that. And if you feel comfortable having your camera on, that's great. But if not, that's absolutely acceptable as well. And in just a little bit, we're going to be sharing all of our contact information, and I will give a quick shout out to Liz. In addition to the work that she does with our team, she's taking a lead role in our region and in Connecticut on, as she said, 8 million hours of what does it look like to engage adults and kids in these type of remote blended hybrid environments. So she's a great one for just tools, strategies. So even if it's not a Skills21 related question, anything that you all like to connect with us on, we're absolutely happy to help support in any way. Okay, great. So let me, I'm going to talk just a little bit about Skills21 and Ed Advance, especially for those of you who are new to us, and there are several new faces, which is great. So Skills21 is a program at Ed Advance. Ed Advance is one of the 6 regional education service centers in Connecticut. And we serve about 30 districts from the Massachusetts border down to the sort of Danbury area, and you can think of the Naugatuck River as our eastern boundary, and the New York border to the west. But we're lucky enough in our program to be able to work with schools across the state of Connecticut and a little bit into Massachusetts, which is great too. That's the kind of setting for our team. And our team is almost 20 years old. This year would have been our 19th in-person Expo Fest, and this year it will be virtual, and we'll talk about that. But we have been iterating over nearly 20 years a model of challenge-based learning, basically. Some folks will call that project-based learning, performance-based learning. But each year we present kids with a series of hands-on challenges that are pretty open-ended, where they have to solve a problem, create a solution, develop an innovation in digital media, entrepreneurship, and STEM, as well as quite a bit of work around film. So it's been a really neat project. We're principally funded, as Liz mentioned, through support from the U.S. Department of Ed and the National Science Foundation. But we've been studying this work pretty vigorously over the last decade, 12 years, trying to understand how the model that we do with kids moves the needle in terms of their STEM achievement and academic gains, 21st century skill mastery, how they think about college and career, both in terms of STEM, but also non-STEM related areas, and how they work with students in different backgrounds. And part of what's been really kind of compelling and interesting for us in the last 6-7 months is how that work has translated from work that we do in person to work that we can do in a blended and remote environment. It certainly wasn't our dream to be an online provider, but we're heartened and encouraged, mostly through the great work of teachers like you all and your students, that some of these really important items can still move forward in new environments for teaching and learning. Alrighty. So the challenges that we are doing this year, and it is a little bit condensed. Last year we had an advanced manufacturing, last few years had an advanced manufacturing challenge, and just some things given the limitations of the pandemic and the way remote learning looks, we've narrowed the focus a bit, but we work with schools in these areas, and we'll speak pretty specifically about all of them at some level. Capstone is its own entity, as is PIP. And then some of the other areas, computer science, engineering, entrepreneurship, middle school, fall under the kind of how we work together in teams with kids. Alrighty. This is a funny thing. I want to make sure that I just sort of address this up front. Sometimes we have this conversation at the end and people say, oh, and I wish I understood. So there are a couple different ways that we work with our schools. Quite a few of our schools historically have been grant funded, and some of our schools work with us in a fee-for-service manner, and that mostly covers the cost of the software and support that we do with our schools. But this is an unusual year, so I don't want to ignore the reality that, you know, historically working with us has a budget associated with it, but this is just a different year. So there's a number of things that we did last year gratis. We'll continue to do those. All of our film work has always been that way. And I'm happy at the end to talk more discreetly about this, but I just wanted to kind of get it out the way up front to say that many of the folks on this professional development have worked with us for a long time, and it's sort of part of your process, whether it's budget or PD or how you even schedule your kids. Other folks are new and you're like, what is this stuff? And so you're going to get a feel over the next half an hour that there's quite a lot that we do with schools. And I'm happy just to speak with people individually to think about what is it that you hope to accomplish, and how can we support you. We are absolutely working with everybody in any way that we can. So I want to acknowledge it, but also at the same time acknowledge that this is just a different kind of a year, and that I'll be your lead in terms of working with folks on how to figure out any of the dollars and cents of this work. Alrighty. All right, and then there's our contact information. It is fun. We are such a small team that we speak every day. We're quite responsive. We're known for that. So you will see that we all wear particular hats, but at any time you can reach out to any of us. We assure you'll get a prompt response, and we'll coordinate with somebody on the team if there's a little bit more information we need to get back to you.
Great, thanks, Matt. So today's agenda is primarily going to be on this upcoming academic year. However, for those who are new to Skills21, we want to make sure that we also look back and give you a sense of what we've done in the past, and then we'll be looking forward to this year. We're also going to go over all of Skills21's offerings this year, including student virtual meetups, as well as teacher community of practice. And then we'll also go over this year's theme and Expo Fest. Once we complete that portion of the PD, we will all be separating into our breakout sessions. And then afterwards, we'll come back and do a closing and clarifying questions. So this past spring, when COVID-19 hit, we realized that you and your students would be working remotely for the remainder of the school year. So we acted as fast as we could to be sure that we supported all of our school districts that we were working with. We made alterations to our programs and our criteria so that students could successfully finish their challenge projects. So those team projects, those capstone projects. We also took away some film challenges and added some new ones that would just be more adaptable at home. And then we also launched something brand new called a PIP, which is a personal interest project where students were working from home and working on exactly that, a personal interest project. And that was for schools to give students an alternative way to stay engaged throughout the spring. We moved everything to virtual. That's everything from Coach Gary's visits to our year-end Expo Fest. And to give you a little snapshot of what that sort of looked like for us last spring, we're going to show you a short video.
Each year, Skills21 at Advance engages over 1,000 students in 10 different challenges, including STEM, digital media, advanced manufacturing, computer science, and more. As the COVID-19 crisis unfolded, Skills21 adapted a number of these challenges to support students during remote learning. Throughout the spring of 2020, the Skills21 team worked with principals, teachers, and students as students completed their films, team projects.
Nice to meet you. I'm Naka. I'm Georgia. And I'm Faisa, and we are Kelja.
And capstone projects in preparation for a first ever online Expo Fest. In addition to the team's work, Skills21 stood up a new curriculum and platform for student personal interest projects. Over 300 students from 10 districts followed their passions and created personally meaningful projects, which illustrate high levels of engagement and rigor.
I want to create a song that encompasses everything I love about jazz, from the chord progressions to the rhythms and improv. Now I'm going to learn how to code a video game in Scratch, and then I'm going to turn it into an app. Now that we have time and we have our PIP competition, I'm going to create a painting based off of the dance lesson by Edgar Degas. Caden, and I'm the founder of the Care Kit Foundation. We will be giving free backpacks to children of all ages in foster care.
Skills21 is collaborating with a number of districts to extend these remote learning supports for the fall of 2020. Want to learn more? Email us at info@skills21.org.
Excellent. So I'm not sure if that voice sounded familiar, but we as a team realized that not only is Matt Mervis a fantastic director of Skills21, but his voice is perfect for narration. So expect to hear his voice on our upcoming videos that we make in the future. So as we move forward into this academic year, we want to take our lessons learned from the spring and apply them moving forward. So we will be doing everything virtual, and that means everything from Coach Gary's visits. However, he will visit schools if that is what you're doing. So don't worry, Lois, Coach Gary will be there if you want him there. But that will be virtual, as well as our student virtual meetups, our teacher community of practices, as well as Expo Fest. And the Expo Fest will be a combination of Zoom and Facebook Live. And Gary and Liz have also worked really, really hard on creating a step-by-step scaffolding process for these challenge projects so that they could be used completely remote, in a hybrid learning model, or in person. These are our 4 offerings this year. We keep referring to them as our Four Horsemen, but these are them. And we know that most of you have a really good sense of which one or which 2 you plan on participating in this year, but we thought we would just give a general overview for each one of them. So we're going to begin with PIP.
Awesome. And remember, unmute. Yeah, so PIP is, as Cam said, is a new initiative for us. It's a personal interest project. I'll be doing a breakout on it this morning. It is among our most scaffolded curriculum, although we've really used what we learned with PIP this last spring and remote learning and try to apply it into the other challenge areas as well. But it's a chance for kids to follow their passion and to do some significant chunk of it at home, if that makes sense, or in school. And there are 12 activities that run through the personal interest project, and students, as they complete those activities, essentially build a project, and when done, they have a beautiful looking project in their project portfolio, which they can share for any number of reasons as they continue on in their middle or high school career.
Great. And next up is our films. And this year we're going to be offering 10 different categories for films. And they range from genre to complexity and to overall tone and length. Films can be submitted by one single student or a group of students. The film submissions can be submitted by anyone in a middle school or high school. And all films are due April 30th. And if you're in my film workshop, we'll be talking more about that.
And I will be talking about Capstone this morning. Capstone is an individual project typically completed by a junior or mostly seniors. It is another way to explore their passions. We'll talk about some of the differentiators between PIP and Capstone, but typically a Capstone is much more research focused and more rigorous. But I'll be doing a breakout session on that.
And for teams, we offer 6 different team-based challenge categories for students to compete in, 5 of which are geared towards high school students, and those categories range from computer science to entrepreneurship. And additionally, we have 1 category for middle school teams, and that is an open category, so they're able to go into any area of focus that with their projects that they desire. Each one of these teams identifies a real-world problem, produces an innovative solution, builds a LaunchPad profile, and pitches their project at Expo Fest. And I will be doing the team's breakout session today, so if you're in there, you'll learn a lot more about the team's offering. Okay. Now, one of the best ways to stay up to date with any one of those offerings or anything Skills21 related is by signing up and receiving our monthly mailers. So those get sent out at the beginning of every month. And some of the topics that we cover in those mailers, anything due date, anything that has upcoming due dates, we like to showcase any of the students' work. We will also showcase that on social media. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we also like to put this in the monthly mailer, as well as we like to talk about some reminders, whether that's stuff you should be working on in your project, because we know during the middle of the year, it can get kind of busy and hectic. So it's just something to keep you online to make sure you're progressing forward. And then as well as any tips, suggestions, kind of best practices that we've learned along the way that we felt are helpful to share with everyone. And there's more info that will be shared in these monthly mailers. These are just a few of the kind of touch points that we'd like to share. And if you're wondering how you sign up for these, for the monthly mailer, when you log on to LaunchPad, you and your students, you're automatically signed up to receive these monthly mailers. And so you should begin to receive them. When's the first one coming out, Cam? In September?
Yep, September 1st.
September 1st, you'll receive that first one. If your students want to receive them, but they don't receive them, maybe there's a bounce back with the school network, or they're just having trouble receiving them, you feel free to forward the information to them if that's what they'd like to look at the monthly mailer. Another way to stay on top of everything Skills21 related is to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We use these platforms throughout the year to showcase progress in the projects. We'll also take chunks out of those monthly mailers to make sure that due dates are promoted on there, any reminders, tips, best practices. But we really like to showcase the students' work and just show all the great skills everyone's utilizing in their classrooms and virtually. And additionally, if you follow us, be sure to tag us, add us on any of the platforms, because we do love to retweet, comment, repost, any of the above, just to showcase all of your great work. Now, Skills21 Coaching. As I mentioned, I'm Skills21 Coach. And these are a few of the touch points that I like to focus on as your Skills21 Coach. I like to offer virtual and in-person class visits throughout the year. Now, how many class visits or virtual visits you get, it's totally up to you. I like to do at least one introduction one at the beginning of the school year, or if you're a class that starts in the back half of the year, early January, probably no later than early February, just to make sure kids know who I am in case there's any questions throughout the year. So an introductory visit, and then from however you see fit, from then until Expo Fest, I'll communicate with you at least once a month, if not more, just to see how everything's progressing. And if you feel a virtual or in-person visit is necessary for your class at that time, we will go ahead and schedule that. But that's one of the offerings. Another thing is I can do remote feedback on whether that's activities you're doing. If you're in the ideation process and you're like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this activity, have you seen this work in classes before or anything like that? I can give feedback, pointers, tips, or share other activities that me or the rest of my team have found successful in the classroom. And then as well as project feedback. So as you're moving along, maybe your prototype team's working along, or your website team wants some feedback on their website or LaunchPad, I can do that as well. Essentially just shoot me an email. Hey, can you look at our LaunchPad profile? We just want to see if we're utilizing the platform, make sure everything's uploaded correctly, etc. So I can do that as well. And then talking about LaunchPad support, anything, questions, or you just literally want to make sure you're utilizing the platform and showcasing your project in the best manner, you reach out to me for LaunchPad and we'll make sure that it is executed properly. And then open communication, you can email me, you can call me, and if most efficient way to reach out to me, if we have like a meeting set for one day and you have to cancel or push it back, a simple text always works the best for that. But yeah, I'm usually attached to the email, can respond pretty quickly just like the rest of the team. So communication line is always open.
It's very true. I just want to check in. Are there any, if there's any chats, if there's any questions we can answer so far?
There is a hot thread going on in chat right now, although I would not say it's a deep pedagogical issue. There's just a conversation about how tall is Tall Gary.
Well, Tall Gary.
If you were to boil it down to numbers, I would say 6'6". But as Cynthia, your kids, pointed out in a nice graphical chart last year, they compared me, I'm taller than, what's that tallest building in like Saudi Arabia? Yeah, it's me, Saudi Arabia, Eiffel Tower, and the Empire State Building. So that's how they perceive me. So it's open to interpretation how tall I am.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know Lois, who is the woman in the yellow blazer in this picture, she is a teeny itty little bitty woman, and she is standing on something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, she's standing on a stool.
Yeah, so
Although I will say that is only in her stature. She is
powerhouse.
a powerhouse. Thank you. That's the right phrase. Oh my gosh. There you go. All right. In a more serious note, I will, I think you're still on that, we're sticking on that same slide, right, Cam? Yeah. Gary is a fantastic reference. In his other life, he is literally a basketball coach, not a shocker. But I think it's schools that work with us essentially have the ability to access, is up to as many as 6, 7, 8, 9. Some folks have used Gary as many as 10 times during the course of a year for actual visits. And we understand that what synchronous will look like for coaching will be different for everybody, but we definitely found last year we could be quite nimble. So I strongly encourage you to take advantage of that support if that is something that makes sense for you. All righty. All right, so speaking of school and home and virtual visits, we just want to, and this may be a little bit clearer as we get deeper into the work and maybe even some of the breakout sessions. All of the challenges and the resources that we'll talk about this year in a second, I'll drill down a little bit on LaunchPad, are structured in ways, as Cam and other folks have said, with the idea that kids will not be in school all of the time. And so the platforms themselves and the curriculum really provide a lot of discrete guidance about what kids need to be doing and are structured in ways that kids can be more independent. For PIP, for instance, there are 12 activities, but we must have shot, I think, 20 videos, an overview of each phase, an explanation of each tasks, several how-to videos on using LaunchPad itself. So they're structured in ways that are really meant to accommodate a blended, a hybrid, a remote, whatever label your school may be using. But as high-level observations, it's our sense, especially for those of you that are doing a mix, that school time will be a great time for check-in, progress monitoring, real-time support for students, and direct instruction on those most important things. But we totally get that your time will be remarkably compressed during school time. So we want to just help provide a little bit of guidance about what might be a natural fit, with the understanding that at home students will have things that they historically may not have had with Skills, at least, which are lots of instructional videos, scaffolded tasks with artifacts of what they need to complete, and the platform, the curriculum profile access to get that work done. So this will vary from each of the 4 kind of areas that we'll focus on today and your own school schedule. But please know that we've been absolutely mindful about this reality that you're having to navigate as you go through the year. Okay. And then we'll jump onto LaunchPad for a second. So you'll get to look at LaunchPad, which is the software platform that we've built over the last several years to host our programs, to manage where kids produce their work, to share that work with our judges and mentors and people to provide feedback. But in the world of remote and hybrid learning, we fully acknowledge that you all have a lot of platforms in your life. It's just no other way to say it. And many of you got quite accustomed to Google Classroom last year, and then your school district may have moved on to Canvas or another new platform. So, we understand that LaunchPad, especially if you're new, will be a new tool. And I just want to assure you that, maybe unlike the Canvases of the world, there's a lot of support. There is a lot of support that will come with LaunchPad. So there are how-to instructional videos, and we'll show you where those are on all of the screens for anything that you might need to do. But more importantly, anywhere anyone gets stuck, an email to any of us, we very often can resolve the issue, provide some quick direct instruction, hop on with a kid, hop on with another teacher. So I want to acknowledge that you have an awful lot on your plate in all manners, but specifically in this case in terms of digital learning platforms. And just know that we really are here to make sure that this doesn't bog you down in any way. Alrighty.
Oops. Oh, was that supposed to happen? Do you
Uh,
want to look at LaunchPad?
nope, not
Okay,
necessarily.
linked. Okay, great. So as we mentioned earlier, we are going to be hosting virtual meetups and community practice for teachers. So prior to COVID-19, we used to host these very large experiential events for students throughout the year. Students from all over the state would come together and they would work together in workshops and lectures where they would get to work on their Expo Fest project. We want to replicate this experience virtually, and we wanted to provide this 3 times a year. So in the fall, winter, and spring, for an entire week, we'll host these. So each week will look the same. On Mondays, the PIP students will come together. On Tuesday, it'll be the capstone students. Wednesdays, it'll be the teams. And then on Thursdays, we'll have that teacher community of practice. And these are the dates that they will be hosted. The virtual meetups, the Skills21 team will conduct workshops that are relevant to the phase that the students are currently in at that time. We'll also be sharing all sorts of Expo Fest tips and best ways to leverage your LaunchPad profile, due dates, things like that. And then students will be able to connect, still be able to connect with students across districts. And, you know, while we certainly can't replicate the exact experience that students were having when we hosted at IBM and Basement Systems, we really feel that this time more than ever, we need to have students connecting with one another. So we're gonna try our very best to replicate that. And then the community of practice, this is an opportunity for you as teachers to come together and have, you know, a nice Q&A with the Skills21 team for clarifying questions. Granted, you will have Coach Gary at your disposal all year, but this is a really nice way for all of you to come together and you talk about what's working and what's not working and share some of your best practices. You know, we've said a few times, you know, this year is going to be fairly different. So we want to make sure that you all have one another to lean on and just share your experiences. And, you know, and at the very least, we're happy to be there for you to vent to us as well. So Expo Fest. So Expo Fest will be completely virtual this year. And it's going to be a little bit more interactive than last year if you participated. The PIP students and the film students, they will have to have everything uploaded to LaunchPad by the deadline, which is May 10th. And then the judges will view their profiles and they will be judged remotely. So that will remain pretty similar to as it was last year. But capstone and teams this year, we've incorporated some more interactivity. So while the capstone students and team students do need to have all of their materials uploaded on LaunchPad by May 10th, they will also have a designated Expo Day in which they will be doing live pitches via Zoom with a panel of judges, followed by a Q&A with that same panel.
Kim, if I can just jump in for one quick sec here. So just for the folks who are new, because there are some labels here like Expo Fest, or what is Expo Fest? So Expo Fest is essentially a year-end celebration of learning, but it is unlike any other that we've been familiar with or seen. So unlike maybe a science fair, this really looks like a startup competition or a trade show, and a lot of activity, a lot of engagement. Kids are really kind of demonstrating what they've done in an interesting way to judges. And so this is one of the hardest things about the transition to remote and virtual. It's just like the student meetups. These were just times where teenagers that did really cool work from different backgrounds were able to get together, see each other's work, celebrate that work, you know, have fun. It was sort of a fun, social, engaging day. So, you know, for those of you who knew, this will be an entirely just a first glimpse experience of a different kind of celebration of learning. But we found that we could grab a hint of all the goodness of Expo last year in a virtual environment, and we're just going to do our level best. Just know that we're working really, really hard to make sure that things like the meetups and Expo take part of what made them so compelling into the digital world. Alrighty, thanks for letting me jump in.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, and then Thursday, the Expo Fest will be the week of May 24th through the 27th. Monday will be a film screening of all the films that were submitted. Tuesday will be Capstone's designated Expo Day with their pitches and Q&A to judges. Wednesday will be the same, but for the teams. And then Thursday, we'll have our award ceremony that will be done via Facebook Live. I just want to take a moment here to pause and see if there's any questions on all of the stuff we just threw at you.
And you're welcome to unmute for a second, to do that, or use the chat. Either one's fine.
So I have a question actually. So last year, sorry, let me just turn on my video as well. Sorry about that. So this year in 2021, there will be only 4 categories, right?
I think there's
Well, there's going to be 4 basic areas that we're working with, folks: PIP, teams, film, and capstone. But within teams, there will still be a science challenge, an entrepreneurship challenge, an engineering challenge, a middle school challenge. Does that make sense?
Okay, so engineering challenge will be there too. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And PIP and capstone, films sort of puts you on your own lane depending on what the film challenge is, but PIP and capstone will come from any number of disciplines and areas, mostly generated by the student's interest. It's a great question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or in chat? No, we haven't given you too much so far. This is all digestible.
It looks like one came in.
Oh, awesome.
The categories within PIP, last year, we really made the categories based on the projects as they came in. So, which is the same as we do for capstone. Last year's PIP categories included an arts, a music, a performance, social justice, building, learning, environmental justice was in capstone.
Technology.
Oh, technology, yep.
Yep.
So we really, for both capstone and PIP, we determine the categories based on the projects rather than fitting the kids into or telling the kids categories before. And if there's a project that seems to cross categories, maybe there's a social justice app, we will often ask the teacher or the student to tell us which category they would prefer to compete in.
For PIP 2, there will be, so even though PIP doesn't show up on the Expo schedule, it's simply because they're not doing like a pitch per se, but they absolutely are part of the award ceremony and all the cool projects that we feature.
And rubrics are already set and ready to go. I think they are linked in the doc you sent last night, right, Cam?
Yeah, they should be.
Yep.
And can you please more elaborate, what is the difference between capstone and the teams actually? Like in engineering, if we are under the engineering category, actually under teams, we are doing the capstone as well. So I do not understand the difference between capstone and the teams, which itself has multiple categories, and doing the capstone.
Sure.
Yeah.
Doc?
Yes, so a capstone has to be completed by one individual student. So the capstone projects are done completely independently. So one student is in charge of everything versus a team project where kids are working more like a company where they work together on ideas. But for us, a capstone to compete in our capstone competition, and it's typically seniors. There are a few schools that have juniors, but it's almost exclusively seniors that are working on a passion project that they've designed.
Okay, so that's the only difference. Capstone individual teams is kind of capstone, but in groups.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right. So Cam, will you just give a little bit of background on what the theme is and then the big reveal?
Sure. So each year for our film, our capstone, and our team students, we provide a little bit of a theme. And this theme, you know, is embedded in our logo, and it's a way for, you know, giving the students a little bit of constraint to promote creativity. And usually this theme is pretty broad, you know, it doesn't, you know, push them into a corner, but it gets them sort of, you know, the wheels turning a little bit, and gives a nice consistency for all of those categories. So the 2021 Expo Fest theme is Reimagine. We realized that, you know, the students are gonna have a bit of a challenging year as it is, but we thought with a theme like Reimagine that hopefully that would inspire some, you know, really groundbreaking, motivational types of projects and films. So that is the theme this year. And with that theme, we decided to take a page from our own book. You know, we've had something as a part of Skills 21 that we've had for a long time. It used to be a really perfect fit, but over time, as we grew and evolved as a team and a program, we kind of grew out of this. So we decided to reimagine our website. And for those of you who have been around for a while, I think you may appreciate that. You know, the website has gotten a major facelift over the summer, and we're really hoping it's going to be a nice one-stop shop for yourselves and your students to find all the sorts of information they may be looking for when it comes to their challenge project. This is not live quite yet, but I just wanted to give you a little snapshot of what it will look like. So similar to, you know, what we've been talking about, the Four Horsemen, the website is all about film and PIP and capstone, teams, and Expo Fest. Those are our, you know, our main programs that we're offering. So, and each page is laid out pretty similarly. So I'm just going to show you the one. We'll just go ahead and hop to teams. And so there'll be a little introductory information about what the program offers and what it's all about. We have quotes on each page from existing or, you know, pre-existing students or teachers or principals. You can find the challenge information, scoring criteria. We talk about the different special awards. You can look at past projects that we've had in the past and look at their LaunchPad profiles. So you can look at those to familiarize yourself with what, you know, what sort of projects come to Expo Fest, and also to give your students a sense as well. We have LaunchPad as well. And LaunchPad, there's a few different LaunchPads, which you'll learn about in your breakout rooms. Film has its own LaunchPad, PIP has its own LaunchPad, and then Capstone and Teams have their own LaunchPad together. And then at the very bottom, we have important dates. So you know when your virtual meetup is, when due dates are for registration and LaunchPad deadlines, and then also Expo Fest. And then you have these buttons too. So if you want to schedule a coaching session with Coach Gary, you can just click on that button and send him a quick email. So that's what the website looks like, and it'll certainly be live by September 1st, which will be when we send out our first MailChimp of the year, so our first mailer, and we will be sure that you can access that. So I hope you're going to be as excited as we are about it. All right. So yesterday I did send out an email sort of giving a sense of where everybody was going to be for their breakout. And I just want to make sure that everybody is happy with where they're going. Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you had some wonderful breakout sessions and you got a little bit more detailed information on your specific area of interest, whether it be PIP, Teams, or Capstone. And we just wanted to bring everybody back. And, you know, I unfortunately didn't have a breakout session. My film people didn't show up, but yeah, it's okay. It gave me some time to start making notes for how to make this better next time. But yeah, so if Matt, Gary, Liz, if you had any questions in your breakout that you actually think would be beneficial to readdress for the whole group, I think now would be a great time for that. And then also for our participants, if there's any questions that you have for a general audience, please feel free to ask them here as well. Otherwise, you know, of course, individual email and follow-up Zooms and phone calls are absolutely eagerly anticipated too. So.
Yeah, we had mostly PIP related questions, but some really good feedback. And so I'll circle those back to the team as we move forward. And the team folks, as you were coming back in, maybe just for everybody's benefit, I'm not sure if everyone was there. I don't think so. When we surfaced that, Sarah asked a question about the kids. So it shows up a few places, but in the Expo Fest pitch, certainly during the virtual meetups, you know, questions about, do the kids' cameras need to be on? In some cases, the school district has a policy disallowing that. So just know that we obviously are going to work with, there's no fixed standard for us that says you can't participate if you don't have your camera on. So we'll work with whatever the local policies are for your school and work with our judges to make sure that they sort of treat all kids equitably, understanding different realities in different school districts. So other questions, Liz or Gary, did anything come up in yours that are good for all type questions?
I think our questions are pretty capstone focused, and yeah, capstone's rocking.
Yeah, nothing overarching. It was mostly scoring criteria, special awards kind of questions, stuff like that.
Great.
Great.
So anything else that folks want to, and you can chat or you can unmute. Just make sure there's any other follow-up questions that we can address. Groovy. Well, you're lovely in person, but you're all lovely virtually too.
I have something.
Absolutely.
Hello. So we don't know actually about our school district, how we're gonna start.
Yep.
It's gonna be hybrid, in person, or like completely remote. It seems to me there are 3 phases in this program: phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. There is a possibility, because of we don't know if it is in person, then phase 1 probably can be completed by time, but maybe we will face some difficulty and may delay to accomplish this stuff in the phase 1 actually. So just that is my concern right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we in the old world, pre-COVID, we certainly had team and capstone projects that would begin as late as the second semester. So I would say that there's flexibility there for sure. So you're just not that timeline will be you'll be able to accommodate that.
Okay.
Additionally, the way Gary is structured and the team is structured, the teamwork, and this is true of capstone and PIP as well, is that it's certainly navigable. So let's say you wind up going full remote for 6 weeks, assuming that that you've got the foothold with your kids and there's a system to be working, which I imagine there has to be. You'd be able to jump right into the projects. So they're structured. They're really, we did our very best, and you'll let us know as the year progresses, but they're really structured for any schooling reality imaginable. And we've seen just about, Liz is creating a master spreadsheet of the various schemes that schools are using to return among our schools, and there is a great deal of diversity. But we feel confident as we look at those that the way we've structured the challenges and the curriculum supports and the coaching supports can work in full remote, blended, hybrid, or full in person, or any variation of the above. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a great question. And again, like our hearts go out to all of you. This is a very complicated start to the year.
And I also, just also in that same vein, we saw a lot of opportunities for pivots this year. I mean, obviously this year the kids went to school one day and the next day never went back. So particularly in capstone, I know kids had, tons of supplies that were locked in closets, hundreds of dollars worth of stuff that never got touched. But so, as you're doing things and working, just trying to remember to be nimble about just keeping in mind that if we're working on this physical prototype at school and all of a sudden we go remote for 6 weeks, like how can we pivot and how can we think about that? Capstone, it's a little bit easier because they're working independently, so it might be better for them to do their kind of experimentation at home, and that can be what they're doing on those remote days. Team projects are certainly more challenging, but and we get it. We know certainly last year the way students pivoted was something we definitely took into consideration in our judging because we had to, and we know that this year is going to be even more complicated than last, and that they may go through all three kinds of hybrid to full remote to everybody in, back to hybrid. And so we are totally aware, we have our finger on the pulse as far as, what each school district is doing right now. And it ranges from, as of this moment, Pomperaug is all in every day, to schools in New Haven that are looking to start full remote and everything in between. So, we get it all, and it will all be considered in both judging and ultimately we just want kids learning. And this really is about keeping kids engaged and keeping them learning in this really crazy time. And these are the projects that all the experts are saying kids should be doing. They should be doing active, creative work, so I know we are a competition, but in the end, we're really just, especially at this time, just promoting kids to be doing innovative stuff and not sitting at home filling out Google Forms.
Thank you for understanding. Yeah, it is a big concern right now. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And working students in group, specifically remotely, it's a very challenging actually. But thank you for understanding that. Thank you so much, all of you.
Absolutely. Great. Any other quick questions?
I see that the chat has something.
Nope. Just people getting ready to leave.
Oh,
okay, awesome. Well, listen, before folks depart, again, just a word of thanks. I want to thank the team. I want to especially give a shout out to Cam, as you know, because Cam was in touch with you as the director of, she said, now virtual events. This is the first one of the year. And so we're really heartened and appreciative that you spent some time with us. And typically within seconds, although Cam may she may pause for like a moment or two here, you'll be getting a survey from her about the day-to-day. If there's one thing that's true about us, we try to make sure that what we're doing makes sense. And when it doesn't, we want people to tell us so that we can make our work better. So please take a moment to complete that survey. But thanks much to Cam Audia for kind of driving the Skills21 Virtual Summer PD train here, and for the team and their work, and for all you for your time and participation. Thanks.
yeah, thanks so much, Matt. And just a quick follow-up along with this survey, we'll also be sharing this slide deck, recording of this portion, the whole group portion of the Zoom PD, and then we'll also be sharing the other slide deck. So if you wanted to, maybe if you were in the teams, but you're curious about Capstone, you'll have that with the speaker notes as well. Yeah, and if you have any questions following up, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.